Well, dear Mrs. President, dear Baron von Uexküll, dear friends and colleagues, and especially dear students of the Falcone-Borsellino promotion. I wish to welcome you to this very special moment of the year, and it is really a special moment, and I'm sure you will keep it well in your memories. Il y a quelques jours, j'ai eu le plaisir d'accueillir ici à Bruges une réunion des anciens du collège, inclus des anciens de la promotion. Maintenant, je dois Alcide Gasperi, oui, je me souviens très bien, qui, à leur époque, avait seulement un nombre de 36 étudiants. C'était l'année 54-55. Et sur les 36 étudiants de cette promotion Alcide de Gasperi, 9 sont venus nous rejoindre ici à Bruges. Et quand je leur demandais quel était le moment le plus spécial qu'ils ont dans leur mémoire, ils avaient tous plus de 80 ans, ils ont tous dit que c'était la cérémonie de clôture. Et j'ai même vu une ancienne photo, en noir et blanc, naturellement à l'époque, et c'était vraiment très émouvant. Alors je suis déjà sûr, quand il y aura plus tard des réunions des anciens, là vous allez vous souvenir plus particulièrement de cette cérémonie de clôture. Well, you students of the Falcone and Borsellino promotion who are on the point of becoming alumni of the college, you are privileged. And I will elaborate a little bit more on the subject of privilege. Why are you privileged? The first element I would like to mention is that you are part of a unique community which you have created during this year at the college. By living together, by working together, by surmounting the cultural barriers which might have existed before, by better understanding your different backgrounds, by engaging in many joint projects, by really engaging in a major effort of mutual comprehension, building up friendships, and really forming a community. I think this community spirit is a key element, and maybe the key element of the famous Esprit du Collège. And this community spirit, this feeling to belong to a community which you have created, we can only help with the framework, but you create the community among the students. This is something which you will take away with you from the college, and it will last a lifetime. And this makes you, I think, very privileged already. Second element of privilege, you have benefited from a study offer which we aim here at the college to constantly improve, to try to get you the best experts from different countries, even from far away. We try to enrich the year, and we have tried to enrich the year by getting you very distinguished guest speakers to still give you other perspectives. It started this year with Prime Minister Rajoy, and it's not yet finished because, as I will introduce later, we will have a very special keynote speaker also for the closing for the first time. I introduce him later. I must say that on certain occasions I felt that we have perhaps even had too many distinguished speakers. I will not, so to say, forget, because I was slightly, how shall I say, red-faced as a rector when the director of Europol came with a two-car convoy, especially from The Hague, to address the students and also to create a prize we are very lucky to have. and then there were only 9 of you in the room. So the students can occasionally be distracted and be selective in terms of their attention. However, what Director Wainwright afterwards told me, and I felt greatly reassured, there may have been rather few students, but the questions were amongst the best he ever got. So, well, you can imagine that I was soulagé by this comment. Let me be frank with you. We have now tortured you during the last few weeks with difficult exam questions, and you had to learn a lot by heart for the exams. And what I want to admit is that a lot of this knowledge which you had to learn for the exams may become outdated rather quickly, because the European Union is a very living political system, constantly evolving, and of course the same applies to all important international relations, legal and economic issues. So part of the knowledge which you have acquired will surely outdate relatively quickly. But what will survive, and what I think will be very useful to you, is the analytical skills which you have acquired during the year. A specific mindset to look across borders, to understand the complexity of finding solutions to cross-border problems in Europe and globally, and to make the effort of understanding different cultures, different points of origin, and also different ways of argumentation. And this makes you, students of the college, I think, very promising managers of diversity, who can actually analyze the complex challenges of today's societal, economic, legal and political problems, and not only analyze them, but can contribute to finding solutions. A couple of months ago, I had lunch with the Undersecretary for European Affairs of Turkey here in Bruges, and I asked him, he's an ancien of the college, I asked him what he has taken away from the year at the college for the career. He said, well, of course, he was here a student in the 1980s, nearly everything has changed in terms of the European Union. Also the relations between Turkey and the EU have now clearly a different shape, etc. But he said it was a different mindset which he acquired during the year, which really has made a difference for his whole career. And he said actually it still happens to him in negotiations today that he remembers some phrases of professors at the college. And I asked him, by the way, whom he remembers in particular, and I passed on the compliment. He said Wolfgang Wessels as one of his professors during the years. So you see, it's the different way of actually looking at challenges and how to try to resolve them, I think, where you will take something away from the college which makes you privileged as well. Then I will be shorter on this because I already said a few words about this on Tuesday. You have also been privileged because of 1 year, a bit less than 1 year actually, spent in one of the most beautiful cities of Europe, in Bruges. Bruges, which has many poetic sites, which is a city which enables you, because of the slightly slower rhythm of life than many capital cities, which could be alternative locations, which provides a framework for really reflecting, for taking time, and this for the background, before the background of hundreds of years of rich cultural and European history. And the city has, as you are well aware by now, also really wanting to give a sign to you of its appreciation of your presence here by making you honorary citizens. That is also clearly a privilege. And finally, I would also like to say you have been privileged because you have benefited from the trust of many supporters of the college, European Union, the Belgian and the Polish government, many national governments, regional governments, and also many sponsors of the college. I would like to say that even those of you who did not come with a college, with a scholarship for the college, benefited from this trust and this investment, because the real cost of a student at the college is actually double of the fee level at the college. The difference is made up by the support of, in particular, public authorities. So there are many who think that you who are here today and becoming alumni have actually merited this investment by taxpayers, because there is a belief that you can make a difference in the future to the life of citizens in Europe and abroad. Also something not to be forgotten. Now, I've said that you are privileged, but I also think that you merit to be privileged. To reassure you, first of all, this has clearly been a very intensive year, not only in terms of the pressures of a demanding study program. I remember that when I was still visiting professor at the college and not here on a permanent basis, that during the exam period, when I used to have a room at the Audesac residence here in Bruges, that some of your predecessors looked like zombies in the morning during the exam period and had worked all through the night to actually prepare for the next exam. So I got an impression how hard it can be, and you managed to go through this, and this is clearly an achievement and adds to justifying the privileges. But you also have had to adapt a lot during this year at the college. You had to adapt to different teaching styles of professors. Some professors preferring an ex cathedra approach, where you had to keep writing all the time, not to miss any of the precious words, whereas other professors might have expected right from the start an interaction with you, a dialogue. And depending on your university background, this probably was quite a challenge to adapt to the constant change between the teaching styles. So there as well, you had to take a hurdle. You have taken it. But also, you have really merited your privileges because of the many additional tasks and activities which you have taken on during the year in top on your study obligations. I would like to mention, for instance, your very successful participation in the Model United Nations competition, where quite a range of major awards were made to college students, and we are very proud of that. Also, the participation in the Accenture project competition, to give another example. These extra activities are very demanding on top of the normal study times, and you had to juggle very tight agendas, which we think is a good preparation for demanding jobs in the future, incidentally. I would also like to mention here, and we are particularly pleased about this, the particular effort which you put this year in via your charity team into charity work. It showed that although you had here a very privileged life, in a sense, during the year, you did not forget about those who are finding themselves in very difficult social, economic, and political conditions. I would perhaps like to mention in particular, because there were many charity activities which you did, your contribution to Familiezorg Flandern care events for old age dementia patients. You actually participated in a musical event specially organized for dementia patients. And I had last week the visit of the director of Familiezorg Flandern, who told me how moved he was that these international students of the college, who are known to be so busy, took time to actually deal with the plight of dementia patients here in Bruges. This is really a point of honor for you. You also engaged in quite a number of other charity activities, which I cannot now all mention here, but just to say we at the college are particularly proud of this side of your engagement. And last but not least, I would also like to say that you have also, in a sense, merited your privilege because of all the numerous parties you have organized. National days, national weeks, lots of different events. I'm not sure whether all of my colleagues will agree with me because this is not necessarily an academic qualification, but it took a lot of effort to organize this. You had to create multinational teams in many cases. You had again to find time to fit this into the program. You contacted a lot of external speakers. Very high-ranking speakers came to your student events, which show also the degree of success you have had in many cases. This is most impressive as well. And whatever career you are pursuing and whatever your personal life choices will be, the willingness to engage in this sort of social activities, to really commit to them, to cooperate, to make them happen, is also a sign of deep personal commitment, openness, and really willingness to make a change. So yes, I think this is also a merit which should be mentioned. But I would like to use this occasion also to add a thought for those many who have helped you students of the Falcone and Borsellino promotion to actually get to the college. One of the reasons why we started last year the new tradition of opening up this event to parents and also family friends of you students at the college has been to give credit to your parents, to your families, for having provided a stimulating and supportive environment which has prepared you so well for the college by actually opening up your mind, making you curious about Europe, about international cooperation, and also by providing the support, including financial support, which has enabled you in the end to be at the college. So also on behalf of the college, a great many thanks to the parents and family members here present and those who could not be with you today for that. I also wish to thank here, and I'm sure you will all join me on that, all those at the college who have really tried their best to make this year as fruitful and enjoyable year for you students as possible. The members of the academic corps, the directors, full-time professors, visiting professors, academic assistants, who went to great lengths to help you with this sometimes difficult process of studying and adapting and ensuring the excellence of our study programs. There are many colleagues here who you may not have seen on a day-to-day basis, but also have played a major role in providing the adequate support. The directors of and their teams of finances and personnel, communications, estates, of course, the academic office in particular. I think Thierry Monforti had to answer a lot of your questions during the year. And special thanks, of course, are also due to Olivia Taverne as a student affairs officer. I can assure you that she defended your interests very well vis-à-vis the rector and was never, so to say, hesitant to actually approach me on a question of support of the students if she felt that this was necessary. Also, there has been a lot of support provided, I'm sure you agree with that, by the residence ladies, special institution at the college. The residence ladies, they normally just have to look for the order in the residences, but I know of quite a few cases where they also provide moral support. if actually there has been a difficult night before because of stress from exam preparations, or sometimes also a night which was maybe a bit too lively. Then the residence ladies in the morning might even bring a coffee or do other nice things to make the students. They are a real institution at the college, and they should certainly also be specially thanked on this occasion. Now, I'm gradually moving to the end of this, this closing speech, but I have still 3 points to add. One is that this moment of the year is a moment where traditionally the next patron de promotion is announced. Well, the guiding ideas for the choice of next year's patron de promotion have been to honor a composer who, although being firmly rooted and feeling passionately about the traditions and identity of his country, transformed these roots, these strong feelings for his own country into a musical language and message which has reached across the borders of Europe, and I would say even well beyond Europe, and has marked actually generations of composers, of musicians after him. A composer also who has had a difficult life, who had to spend most of his life in exile, who had to struggle with a lot of health problems, but in spite of this, continue to compose music which still warms the hearts of millions today. The name of the next patron de promotion is Frédéric František Chopin, Frédéric François Chopin. Thank you very much. I think by choosing Chopin, we also indicate that Europe is, of course, much more than the political and administrative and economic construction, that Europe has a huge cultural soul and dimension. So I think it is a good time to be aware of this as well. Let me also add one final word regarding this year's patrons, Falcone and Borsellino. I said at the beginning of the year that they were surely worth to be your patrons and to bear this name for the year, and also that you will bear this name in the future. I think that you have chosen, you have demonstrated during the year that you are worthy of your patron de promotion as well. With your critical analysis and thinking about what public services and what institutions, national and European, should deliver to citizens, with your critical thinking, analysis, discussion of good governance, you have shown a spirit which your patron de promotion would have liked. They stood up for the rule of law, for the defense of the authority of the state, for the defense of the common good. They paid even the final price for this. But you have shown that you are aware of what the challenges are, what governments should deliver, what public authority should deliver. So I think you are worthy of your patrons. I would like to add a small remark that I thought about your patron de promotion when you organized on a rainy morning here in January in Bruges the special event spontaneously to commemorate Charlie Hebdo. Because this sort of spontaneous going out and making a statement in favor of fundamental rights, values, and that they needed to be defended, I think they would have been very proud to have given their name to you. Let me finish before I introduce our special guest and speaker by giving you a motto on your way. I borrow this motto from a patrician of Bruges, who also is sometimes regarded as one of the first truly European diplomats. He died in 1492, long time ago, just 200 meters away from our diver building in the palace of his family. His name was Lodewijk van Groothuizen, and he had a very nice motto, which I would like to give you with you on your way. Plus est en vous. There is more in you. You, because you have spent this year here together at the college, can now say there is more in you because of this year here at the college, because of the community which you have built. And therefore, if ever in your future life, and it will probably not be spared to you, there are difficult moments and you don't know which way to go, or you face a personal crisis, remember, plus est en vous, there is more in you. Remember the time you had together, and I think it will help you. Today, we are inaugurating a new tradition for our closing ceremony, and I'm most grateful to Bernd von Uexküll that he has agreed to join us for this purpose. By tradition, the College of Europe has always invited a head of state or government or president of one of the EU institutions for its opening ceremony in autumn. But Europe is much more than a political construction and a political challenge. It is a wider space, and especially as you are going to very likely spend your careers and lives in some connection with the Europe in a wider sense, we think that would be very good to have a very distinguished leading European intellectual, European thinker to actually give you a message on your way out into this life. And we could not have found a more illustrious and qualified speaker to inaugurate this new closing speech tradition than you, Mr. van Uexküll, because of your lifelong commitment to the encouragement of alternative thinking, of creative thinking, of finding alternative ways to tackle the challenges of modern times here in Europe and at a global level. I think this is in particular exemplified by your foundation of the Right Livelihood Award, known to many of you, I think, primarily as the alternative Nobel Prize, and also through your founding of the World Future Council. It makes us very confident that you can give our students a special message about the challenges they will have to address and how they can be part of the solution of these challenges through their skills, through their dedication, through their commitment. Thanks very much for being with us today, and I would now like to ask you to
Thank you, Rector Monar. I'm very honored to be asked to speak here today. In 1936, Winston Churchill wrote, "Owing to past neglect in the face of the plainest warnings, we have entered upon a period of danger. The era of procrastination, of half measures, of soothing and baffling expediencies and delays is coming to a close. In its place, we are entering a period of consequences." End of quote. Our ancestors sometimes saw themselves living in historically important, even unique times of change and transition. This, of course, gave their own lives a sense of heightened importance, even if those who followed them did not share their perception. But today there can be no doubt that we live at a crucial time in human history. Your decisions and actions, or your failures to act, will have an impact on future generations for centuries, possibly for millennia or even for geological time periods. This is an enormous responsibility which you did not choose, but cannot escape. It is the result of the decision by preceding generations, including mine, taken first out of ignorance, but over the last decades knowingly, to bet the future of human civilization on the hope that economic growth, markets, and technology will find solutions to the problems they have created. In his overview of failed civilizations, Jared Diamond notes that the most frequent cause of their collapse was their holding on for too long to outdated belief systems which had once served them well, indeed provided the foundations for their success. Over the last century, Western Europe and North America developed a new belief system and political ideology, economic growth, which not surprisingly conquered the world as it promised paradise on earth for all. Warnings of natural limits were ridiculed and evaded for a while by growing into the ecological and economic space of other countries. To silence the skeptics and justify the wealth accumulation of a small minority, economic growth has had to constantly accelerate at the expense of the planet's health. Today, every living system is declining and the rate of decline is accelerating. Important rules like do not poison the water, a capital crime for our ancestors, or soil or air, have been broken. Today, if you look at the science and are not pessimistic, you have not understood the data. But while the challenges we face are unprecedented, history offers many examples of people overcoming seemingly impossible odds. Slavery abolitionists were the first to create an international movement to defend the rights of those they did not know. At that time, 3 out of 4 people in the world were enslaved. Enslaving each other was what human beings had done for ages. Abolitionists were ridiculed and told they would ruin the economy, but within a few decades, their moral crusade succeeded in delegitimizing slavery all over the world. In 1941, the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill told US President Roosevelt that he had no defense against a Nazi invasion and urgently needed planes and ships in huge numbers. Roosevelt called in the leaders of US industry who said his demands were impossible. Roosevelt then enacted the Selective Service Act, allowing him to take over uncooperative factories, and the industrialists quickly changed course. By 1943, a plane was produced every 4 minutes, a tank every 7 minutes, and 2 seagoing ships every day. Roosevelt's biographer Doris Kearns Goodwin writes, "Ironically, while the leaders of industry clung to a static view of the American economy, it was Roosevelt and his impractical theorists who held a powerful vision of the country's potential to produce more than anyone had ever dreamt possible." Visionary leaders expand the limits of possibility. But where, you may well ask, are these leaders today? Capable to inspire and motivate us to heed the increasingly desperate warnings of the scientific community by confronting the very inconvenient truth that current policies are leading not to a global paradise, but to the collapse of human civilization, possibly even of life on Earth. After the financial crash, the British Prime Minister at the time, Gordon Brown, wrote in his book Beyond the Crash, "I believe the most stunning revelation of the crisis was this: the ethical values that matter in everyday life had never infused the financial markets. Banks, he discovered, had spent savers' deposits without their knowledge. He was furious to discover this and wrote, 'We were misled.' I must say I was stunned to read that the leader of a major G7 economy and long-term Chancellor of the Exchequer did not know how the financial system works." His chapter on China concludes that there is little doubt that measures must be taken to counteract China's lack of willingness to spend. That ever-increasing consumption is imperative worldwide is the basic belief system of our political leaders. When told that this is not physically possible, they are lost. Despite their repeated assurances that the global crisis is over, the percentage of US middle-class parents who believe their children will be better off fell from 71% in 2000 to 15% in 2013. Unexpected changes are already happening. In the USA, average vehicle miles traveled by 16 to 34-year-olds fell by 23% between 2001 and 2009. In Japan, the young Satori generation are increasingly anti-consumerist. This, of course, drives economists and politicians to despair, accusing them of destroying growth by their refusals to buy. Climate change is the defining issue of our time and the greatest challenge you will face wherever you live. It will create a huge refugee crisis for which we are neither politically nor morally prepared. In Bangladesh, 50,000 people already migrate to the capital every month because rising sea levels have made their villages uninhabitable and destroyed their arable land. The former head of the IMF, Michel Camdessus, expects hundreds of millions of African climate refugees to try to reach Europe in the coming decades because they can no longer survive at home. Whatever methods the EU tries to use to stop them, enough will arrive to make European countries increasingly ungovernable. So how are our current leaders reacting to this growing emergency? We know that drastic decisions are now needed to have a fair chance of keeping global warming below the +2 degrees limit, beyond which adaptation will no longer be possible. Is humanity pulling together to meet this global challenge? So far, I'm afraid the answer is no. In the intergovernmental meetings in Bonn earlier this month, preparing for the Paris Climate Summit, the arguments were depressingly familiar. A few quotes from the discussions on financing, clearly a key issue. In the title of the first section, A Global Framework for Financing Sustainable Development, the G77 and China called for deleting sustainable. In a paragraph noting that governments and high representatives have gathered to address the challenge of financing sustainable development, the EU called for replacing financing with implementing. Canada, the EU, Japan and the US did not support the G77 China proposal to call on developed countries to take the lead in addressing global risks. On ensuring significant mobilization of resources, the US said they could not support ensure and proposed promote. Australia cautioned against calling on investors to change or encourage certain behavior, stating that this might be interpreted as governments directing private actors. The G77 China called for deleting the paragraph on gradually eliminating inefficient fossil fuel subsidies for production and consumption. Canada requested deleting the sentence on working towards putting a price on carbon. Australia, supported by the US, called for deleting the call for private actors to invest with the long-term horizons necessary for sustainable development and to shift to more sustainable consumption and production. Australia, supported by the US, expressed concern with the requirement that companies should incorporate non-financial factors into their reporting. In a paragraph indicating that member states will promote the development, dissemination, and diffusion of environmentally sound technologies to developing countries on favorable terms, the US objected to the reference to transfer on favorable terms, including on concessional and preferential terms anywhere in the document. The G77 China proposed deleting the text on including sustainable development provisions in both trade and investment agreements. The EU proposed a text on assessing the human rights impact of the trade agreements. Australia and the USA opposed. In case you think this is the way political leaders always operated, this is a quote from President Roosevelt from 1936. I should like to have it said of my first administration that in it the forces of selfishness and of lust for power met their match. I should like to have it said of my second administration that in it these forces met their master. The depressing truth is that we were further even 25 years ago. In a 1989 New York Times CBS poll, 80% in the USA agreed with the statement that protecting the environment is so important that standards cannot be too high and continuing environmental improvements must be made regardless of cost. Today, the US Senate is chaired by a man who won election with the slogan, "Coal, guns, freedom." What happened in the meantime? The forces of selfishness and lust for power, referred to by Roosevelt, bought the world. Last year, Princeton University concluded that the USA no longer fulfills the criteria of a democracy, but those of an oligarchy. In the UK, while 3/4 of the population believe that the climate is changing because of human activity, only half of their members of parliament do. 71% of Conservative MPs think that human-induced climate change is either unproven or environmentalist propaganda. But change can come very quickly when the time is ripe. In May 1989, in Moscow, the West German government representative assured his East German colleague that nobody in the West was thinking of changing the status of Berlin. The wall, as we know, fell 6 months later. Suddenly, the old order collapsed, and so-called ordinary people who had the trust of their fellow citizens found themselves brought together at the famous round tables to steer their country into the future. In the coming crisis, this could very well be your role. The President of China recently affirmed here his belief that we must live in harmony with nature and unremittingly pursue self-renewal. He also declared his aim of building a moderately prosperous society, a fascinating expression from him, being well aware that the per capita resource consumption here in Europe cannot be replicated in China. This, of course, raises the question of its justification here and in other rich countries. As economic growth cannot deliver West European living standards for all without ruining the planet, issues of global justice and equity will again have to be addressed. Serious leaders in the global south are well aware that duplicating the Western development model would destroy their environment, even if the CO2 emissions of the industrialized countries fell to zero. As the late Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, said, equitable access to a train wreck is not a desirable goal. Neither, he said, is it equity or justice to foul the planet just because others have done so in the past. It is claimed by apologists of the current growth model that poor countries care less about environmental threats. But when a world public opinion poll asked for reactions to the statement that, quote, the struggle against climate change should be given priority, even if this would slow economic growth and cost jobs. In the USA, only 14% agreed unconditionally. In France, 23%, in Turkey, 37%, and in Kenya, 53%. So the willingness to change is there. Even the World Business Council for Sustainable Development has now accepted carbon pricing, including border tax adjustments, as long as there will be regulatory certainty. But the fossil fuel lobbies, powered by over $500 billion in annual subsidies, will not be easily defeated. However, the window of change is now opening, and the choice is yours. Do you escape into a conventional career and risk the angry questions of your children and grandchildren? Why did you not act when the climate war was still winnable? Or do you dedicate yourself to this unique historical challenge? I'm well aware of putting the choice so starkly. A friend of mine gave a talk on climate change in a Russian college a few years after the fall of the Soviet Union. After convincing his audience that the environmental crisis was for real, several students stood up and left. One of them explaining that as capitalism was also doomed, they were going to join the mafia and enjoy life while there was still time. The climate war will not be won by General Twitter or Admiral Facebook. Social media can mobilize, but the actual changes will require our live presence and commitment. As the PR guru Frank Makiewicz once said, the environmentalists are going to have to be like the mob in the square in Romania, which ended the Ceausescu dictatorship, before they prevail. We need a radical and comprehensive transformation of our societies and ways of life if we don't want a future where disruption and conflict will be endemic features of life. To quote not some green think tank, but a Pentagon report from 2004 on environmental risks. How fast this future will now hit us is, of course, the great unknown. But 10,000 years ago, when the world came out of the last ice age, temperatures rose by more than 6 degrees in a decade. We're used to the media exaggerating news. But when it comes to climate news, the opposite is the case. The expert scientists are much more worried than the commentators. And when the London Times recently presented a realistic overview of environmental threats, it was so worried about reader reactions that it provided the phone number of the Samaritans at the end of the report. And in poor countries, the effects we still read about are, of course, already there, impacting on every area of life as their knowledge of nature, which enabled them to survive, becomes increasingly invalid. The head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, who only recently understood the extent of the threat, now says that the next 2 years will be crucial if we are to stay within the plus 2 degrees average temperature increase, which is the maximum seen by most climatologists as having manageable consequences. So is there any chance of such a quick turnaround after the wasted decades and conferences until now? This largely depends on the pressure and energy from your generation. Yesterday the Pope spoke out, sternly and forcefully, and Catholics all over the world will need to act if they don't want to betray their faith. Last December in Stockholm, the Right Livelihood Award, widely known as the Alternative Nobel Prize, which I founded, went, among others, to the editor of The Guardian, Alan Rusbridger, the world's now largest online news site, and the prominent US climate campaigner Bill McKibben. Their meeting resulted in the ongoing Guardian campaign to make institutional investors withdraw their investments from fossil fuel companies. This has already, in the 6 months since, forced the fossil fuel lobby on the defensive. And it is a big issue, as 1/2 of the total value of the London Stock Exchange, for example, is invested in values which will become worthless if the underlying fossil fuel reserves are no longer exploitable due to climate legislation, with rippling effects, of course, throughout the economy. Of course, we are told that there is no alternative to the present modern world except returning to the Stone Age. That is naturally nonsense. Even a generation ago, we could still have achieved a relatively smooth transition to a sustainable global order if my generation had listened to early warners like Al Gore and taken seriously the different future scenario options presented then by the Club of Rome. We did not, and now the transition will be much more challenging. But if we act now, a good quality of life for all is still available. All the evidence shows this. The second report to the Club of Rome, less well known than the limits to growth, was entitled No Limits to Learning. There are no limits to the number of skills and languages we can learn, musical instruments we can learn to play, etc. When Chandra Nair, chair of the Global Institute for Tomorrow in Hong Kong, which also advises the Chinese government, was asked to give an example of what a sustainable global future would look like, he replied only half-jokingly, fewer car races and more dancing competitions. The description of life in England during the Second World War points in a similar direction, I quote. There was also a huge focus on enjoying low-consumption good times. There were campaigns to holiday at home and endless festivities such as dances, concerts, boxing displays, swimming galas and open-air theatre, all organized by local authorities with the express purpose of saving fuel by discouraging unnecessary travel. Over the course of the war, spending on relatively weightless entertainment went up as classic consumption went down. End of quote. Today, the online world offers many new opportunities to enhance our quality of life while saving scarce natural resources. But, of course, it also consumes energy. A few years ago, a programmer told me that an avatar in the then popular program Second Life consumed as much as an average inhabitant of Costa Rica. In many ways, of course, we don't know what a sustainable future would look like. As with the right policy incentives, a new era of innovation, discovery, and investment will quickly present unimagined and exciting opportunities once we break free from our self-imposed limitations. The challenge we face is in many ways similar to that at the end of the Middle Ages, when church power based on religious dogmas impeded human progress. Just like the debates about those dogmas were only held in Latin, in today's world ruled by money, debates are limited by financial dogmas and expected to be held within their parameters. Thus, every reform called for can be blocked by the claim that it would cost too much, suggesting that maybe we can't afford to live on this planet. In reality, of course, whatever we can do, what we have the resources, the labor, and the knowledge to do, we can also finance. Creating new money and printing new money against new performance, i.e. for producing new goods and services, is not inflationary. If we could quickly create trillions to save banks, we naturally can create whatever we need to stabilize the climate, protect our natural environment, on which life on Earth, including economies and market, depends. The consequences of financial debts can always be dealt with, but nature provides no rescue packages, and you cannot negotiate debt relief with melting glaciers or with spreading deserts. Today, the greatest single threat to our human future are economists who do not understand natural limits or risk hierarchies, but whose advice is still taken seriously by political leaders. They worship markets, but while markets are good servants, they are bad masters and an even worse religion. They claim that markets can be self-regulating and are superior to the state, but this is, of course, another ideological myth. As the sociologist of capitalism Karl Polanyi wrote, "The road to the free market was opened and kept open by an enormous increase in continuous, centrally organized and controlled interventionism." End of quote. Recent technological revolutions were often made possible by state support and regulation. When regulations are weakened by strong lobbies, costly crises are likely. In 2000 to 2002, governments were persuaded by the financial industry to make pure bets on future prices into legally enforceable contracts, no longer classified as gambling as they had been before that. Not banned, but not legally enforceable. This change was a major cause of the financial crisis. Economists also like to discount the future, thus discriminating by dates of birth and making protecting future wealth uneconomic. If you have a discount rate of 2%, that means that a life starting in 35 years' time is worth half as much as a life being lived now. Where is the logic in that? The dogma, of course, this dogma is based on the assumption that whatever happens, we will all be richer in the future. But if we become poorer due to environmental collapse, discount rates should really be negative, which would, of course, totally transform our planning and priorities. The famous bottom line depends on what we include in and what we exclude from the top line. Externalizing production costs is not only unfair competition, but fraud, and should be dealt with as such. As the English social critic John Ruskin wrote 150 years ago, "Private enterprise should never be interfered with, but on the contrary, much encouraged, so long as it is indeed enterprise, involving the exercise of individual ingenuity and audacity in new fields. But private enterprise that poisons its neighborhood or speculates for individual gain for common risk is very sharply to be interfered with." Today we have allowed the second kind of enterprise to become so powerful that forcing corporations to suddenly pay the full cost of their production would bankrupt most of them, according to Pavan Sukhdev in Corporation 2020. We are also all no longer treated as citizens, only as consumers, although the priorities can be very different. And there's a fascinating story here from an American university where and there was an application by the Disney Corporation to build a Disney park inside a nearby national park. And US professor Mark Sagoff then asked his students if they would visit such a park. The vast majority would. The consumer interest was clearly there. He then asked if they thought the US government should allow it to be built. An overwhelming majority was strongly opposed, arguing that the government had a duty to future generations to preserve the national park still existing intact. But the second question, of course, is rarely ever asked. Advertising has built a culture of constant dissatisfaction and discontent, leaving Western adults on the emotional level of insecure teenagers. This has not been a natural development, but the result of a deliberate strategy, as described by the marketing pioneer Paul Masur, quote, "We must shift America from a needs to a desire culture. People must be trained to desire to want new things, even before the old ones have been entirely consumed," end of quote. As a result, Americans today buy twice as many items of clothing as they did only 20 years ago. The amount the average Briton spends on clothing almost doubled in 14 years, from 1990 to 2004, i.e. many decades after any wartime scarcities ended. Today our governments believe that the magic of the market will somehow produce the massive eco-industrial transformation which our global production systems now require. Or Giovanni of the Risk Institute describes this faith in the power of price to dictate results as tantamount to belief in myth or magic. To counter this myth, the World Future Council, which I founded in 2007, works to identify, spread, and adapt the most effective laws and policies from around the world, which can provide the incentives required to change course. And as we know, laws can change course very, very rapidly. But for under the radar, such breakthrough policy solutions usually already exist somewhere, and policymakers somewhere else are keen to learn about them, but often do not have the information or capacity. The World Future Council was set up to assist them, because there are many organizations today which focus on what to do and why to do it and where we want to go, what goals we set. But the World Future Council focuses on how to do it. Just to give you one quick example, we found a Brazilian regional law which has reduced child mortality by 60% by giving the people there a right to food, a legally enshrined right to food. They promote local agriculture, they have food banks, etc. They cost the city 2%, and as I said, child mortality has gone down by 60%. So we're now taking this law to Namibia, taking Namibian mayors to Belo Horizonte in Brazil to learn about it, and taking the Brazilians who designed it to Namibia to help to adapt it to their needs. This is work which is, of course, vital, but it's difficult. As Martin Luther King once said, that laws don't move the heart, but they restrain the heartless. But most people, of course, want their hearts moved. We work in different areas as our resources allow, and we have now brought together the most important of these breakthrough policies in a global policy action plan, GPACT, providing a coherent response to the interlinked global crisis. The plan combines tried and tested laws and policies that have been successful in one or more countries, as well as optimal policy solutions identified through our extensive research. Together they show the path to an ecological civilizations. They can be found on www.futurepolicy.org, and you will later find some information there. I think it's also important that when you do something, you don't just start from scratch. You try to build on what humanity already achieved and then see where's a gap, and we can fill that gap. So we looked at all these laws, but we found that there already are criteria for future, so-called future just laws. They were developed by the International Law Association in the late 1980s. They were adopted by the world's governments at the Johannesburg Summit in 1992. So all the laws which we look at, and we have an award every year in a different area for best laws, the Future Policy Award, we first check, and only if they fit in with these criteria which have been developed and adopted, do we promote them in close relationship with the Interparliamentary Union, which of course links almost all the parliamentarians in the world, and the relevant UN organizations. So let me just end by giving you some of the key areas where policy reforms are now vital, to give you an idea of the many different, but as I said, interlinked areas we need to work in. We need to legalize debt-free money creation by central banks, as I said before, to fund the eco-industrial revolution. We need a green tax shift and green budgeting. A green tax shift sort of developed by the Canadian Liberal Party about 7 years ago, so it's there, the model is there, although not yet implemented. We need to allow only new financial instruments that serve real wealth creation, like a financial test, like you don't allow a car on the road before it's been roadworthiness tested. We need something similar for new financial instruments. We need, of course, divestment laws against unethical investments to be strengthened. We need to mandate ecological, intelligent design and production based on the cradle-to-cradle concept which has been developed. We need to facilitate benefit corporations with broader social mandates, an idea first developed in the US state of Maryland, where you can now legally register a corporation which does not have the obligation to maximize financial profits. We need to introduce environmental and peace education in school curricula, and of course, especially, and interesting enough, this is one which I know the Dutch media loved a lot, ecological literacy testing in university economics courses and business school agendas. We need sustainable progress indicators for government decision making. We did a study with which the EU funded the Brain Pool project, looking why there are so many such indicators, but they aren't still being implemented. We still have this sort of GDP fetishism. We need to empower women to ensure that every child born is wanted. We need to create guardians of future generations on the national and international level. They were just set up in Wales. We work at the UN and on the EU level to create like a UN High Commissioner for Future Generations. Our ancestors had such institutions quite often. We don't, although we impact future generations more than they ever could and did. We need to end the impunity for crimes against future generations, to redirect military spending to advance environmental, food and water security. We need to facilitate an inclusive transition to renewable energies, and including the abolition, of course, of fossil fuel subsidies. Again, everybody agrees in theory, but in practice, it's extremely important to find the right law. Indonesia has so far got the best example. In several other countries, they tried it, got it the wrong way, and massive protests forced them to backtrack. We need, of course, to secure biodiversity protection, to reverse deforestation and forest degradation, and to expand marine protected areas, to list the most important areas. So in conclusion, let me just say, the German philosopher Ernst Bloch once wrote that the price of human free will is the risk that the great historical moment will encounter too small a human race, one not up to the challenge. You are now the most powerful generation in human history, for you are the guardians of all future generations of life on Earth. The consequences of your decisions and actions will have longer-term effects than ever before. Each one of you has the power to decide if you're going to be part of the problem or part of the solution. To find your specific role, the advice of Aristotle still holds true. Where the needs of the world and your passion overlap, there lies your vocation. Thank you very much.
Student. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à la présidente de l'association des anciens, Madame Eleonora Vectare, avec laquelle on a une coopération permanente. Et j'apprécie beaucoup toujours la bonne coopération entre l'association et le collège. Elle représente plus de 11 000 d'anciens du collège. Alors voilà, Eleonora, c'est ton tour.
Chers étudiants, il n'y a pas si longtemps encore, je vous rencontrais pour la première fois au mois de septembre afin de vous parler un petit peu, vous présenter l'association. C'est avec grande émotion que je vous vois ici aujourd'hui, tous réunis pour la cérémonie de clôture. Une année très intense, riche en initiatives, se termine. Cette année encore démontre la richesse des étudiants du collège. Vous avez fait preuve de beaucoup de curiosité, d'esprit d'initiative, d'ouverture d'esprit. J'ai eu l'occasion et le plaisir de rencontrer un certain nombre d'entre vous. Je salue encore une fois le groupe Énergie, fondé par des étudiants de la promotion à Veil, mais vous avez repris le flambeau et nous sommes confiants à l'association que la coopération entre votre promotion et les promotions précédentes va continuer. Mais il y a eu aussi Europe Outside the Box, la conférence Amnesty, l'expo d'art moderne, les activités caritatives dont le recteur a parlé. À la fin de cette cérémonie, vous serez des anciens. Quelle joie d'accueillir parmi les anciens une promotion d'une telle qualité. And as the rector said at the end of the promotion, at the end of the ceremony, you'll be part of a group of about 11,000 alumni spread around the world. And with time passing, you will gradually see the added value of having studied at the college. Because with time, you will fully appreciate the academic value of the study program you've chosen, but also because you will realize that you have become part of the very special family. And as in all good families, the older one cares for the younger one, supporting them and mentoring them. Some of you already benefited from the support from the older generations in the form of a scholarship. There are many scholarships, the Brunner Foundation Scholarship, the scholarship of the Besch promotion, the scholarship created by a group of alumni led by Alex Schaub and Birgit Wiese-Montag, just to name a few. But a few brought together amount to a significant amount of money that show the degree of solidarity that exists vis-à-vis the younger generations, but also the strong ties that the alumni maintain with the college, because by supporting you, alumni indirectly support the college. So you've benefited from inter-promotion solidarity already, but all of you, sooner or later, will benefit from this solidarity in other form, via the job market, well, job search. It's not that there is some sort of blind favoritism by older alumni vis-à-vis younger alumni. Each of you will have to prove himself or herself and demonstrate his or her merit. But there will be a natural sympathy vis-à-vis younger generations. Because we know, again, the solid academic background, or because we've all suffered under the same tough professors. And this solidarity will come at times you won't expect it. It will be friends from your promotions or from the promotion before saying, hey, by the way, they're looking for someone in my company or at my judge at the Court of Justice or in many different places. And suddenly you will have a very interesting job offer, the grey market, the mythical grey market, the mythical job market. It happened to me several times and I've graduated 13 years ago, and it was just to make an exception. I don't pretend to be special in any way, and I've heard it from other friends. It's just that there is a feeling of belonging. Last week I was at a dinner with a bunch of in-house lawyers, 9 people around the table, and the conversation started, and it appeared that 6 out of the 9 people around the table had studied at the college, all from different promotions, and all of a sudden the atmosphere changed. We were together. There was a feeling of belonging. As in all good families, there is a famous cousin. Yes, there are some VIP alumni, people who've had a stellar career in politics. You all know about the ministers, different type of ministers in Denmark, Finland, Italy, UK, just to name a few, judges at the Court of Justice, high-ranking civil servants, leading academics. Who will you become? As Mr. von Uxter said, you're the next generation. Who will you become? Well, this will depend on you. The alumni are there to help, but that ultimately, this is your responsibility. This is your choice. The future is bright. Despite the economic crisis, believe in yourself, the future is bright. Don't be too arrogant either. Sometimes we hear complaints about, these arrogant young brides from the College of Europe. Please, be modest. Conversely, I have to encourage the bright young ladies sitting in this room not to be too shy. It's often girls who tend to be less confident. Bright young ladies, you have all it takes to be successful and to become leaders in your fields. Don't hesitate to apply to demanding jobs. It is for the employer to decide whether you have the right qualifications or not, whether you can make it in the job. Apply to demanding jobs. Don't be afraid to negotiate your salary either. There is still a salary gap of, on average, 17% between men and women in Europe. There are many causes and it's a long debate, but I believe each woman has a responsibility to make something about it in their own workplace. And a short word on babies. Yes, perhaps one day you'll start a family. I wish you so, it's wonderful. I have a daughter, 3.5 years old. And many of my friends do, but I'm a bit sad to see how many young women of my age, after 10, 15 years studying at the college, very well qualified, drop off the job market or don't feel they can come in. Be confident. When you give birth to a baby, what comes out after the baby is called placenta. It's not the brain. So be confident. You can come back into the job market at full speed if you so wish. And your child will be fine. I can assure you, when it's painting day at the kindergarten, I don't even get my goodbye kiss. So, go back to work. Who will you become? I said it's the economic crisis. It's difficult to find a job. And for college alumni, it's not easy either. But even tough times, and even more so perhaps in tough times, I think there is a fundamental rule. It should be common sense, but follow your interest, follow your heart. It's not always easy to know what to do. There are many attractive paths. Which one to follow? Well, follow the poet. Take the least traveled by, and that will make all the difference, because it will be your own path. And if you're in doubt, and if you're not in doubt, join the activities of the Alumni Association. Meet and mingle with past generations. Discuss your ideas. They will be happy to discuss your plans, because they had the same questions about Brussels, about the diplomatic service of country A or B, about working at the Commission, working in the private sector. The same question come back over and over. How to make a difference? That comes back as well. Some of you attended our career event on 8th of April at Microsoft. We had 3 very interesting speakers. One of them is here today. And if you remember the discussions, I think it could be summarized with one line. They were all very happy with their jobs because they had found positions which were coherent with their values and their personalities. So that's also one of the guiding ideas. Perhaps another guiding principle, surely a guiding principle, is meaning, a sense of purpose, finding what is the overarching goal of what you're doing every day. Perhaps your task might be quite simple if you're a junior person, but what is the overarching goal? What are you trying to achieve? And to illustrate this, let me give you a little example. On 1st of May 2004, you may remember 1st of May 2004, I was very happy to attend a dinner with anonymous Commission officials, no VIPs. I was very happy though, because one of them made a very nice speech. He said, "Our names will not be in the history books, but we were there and we brought Europe back together." So this sense of purpose can animate you. It can animate you even outside the Commission. I work in the private sector for an agency, a communications and lobbying agency. You think, oh, lobbying and communications agency? We won't make an industry book. The transparency register is not a history book, I'm afraid. But still, you can make a difference campaigning for instance, the eradication of a disease that is still killing children in Africa. There are many projects on which we can work in different capacities. Finally, well, not yet finally, but nearly finally, I wanted to share with you a sentence which I have remembered for a long time. You have engaged in lots of activities now during this academic year. Well, continue, because if you cannot make your life longer, you can make it broader. So keep up the level of commitment you have shown during this academic year. Commitment vis-à-vis charities, vis-à-vis culture, vis-à-vis debate. You're also very welcome to be active in the Alumni Association. We try to bring alumni together via multiple activities, but I'm eager to take it to the next level and to have more debate within the Alumni Association on themes that are relevant for our times. So come and see me if you want to discuss this further. And finally, I'd like to invite you all already for the inauguration of the new premises of the Alumni Association in October. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Well, a great many thanks to Eleonora for this appeal to you, and also for the warm offer to contribute to the Alumni Association. We have a leadership series here at the college. I think we might invite also Eleonora to contribute to our leadership series, because I was impressed over the last few years how she really has turned around the association, addressing also major financial challenges, which clearly is part of a leadership skill which you should have these days. So a great many thanks to them. We now have a first musical interlude, and then we will continue with the
Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Babe, I just can't make it right. But don't mean, baby, you know I love you so. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night. Mother, oh, and your father, I hear if I stay here too long, a kiss will part, and I'll be going. You know I had to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, I really must say so. Good night, sweetheart, good night.
Well, a great many thanks to the student choir, who really has, I think, covered new ground, also with the choice of the musical interlude for today, and really has, I think, added to the brightening up also of the atmosphere here in our location today. Great many thanks, very impressive indeed. It is now my particular pleasure to actually call one by one forward the best students of each department, the laureates of the departments. And I will start with the Department of Political and Administrative Studies. The laureate of this promotion is Pifane Milies. Please come forward. Many congratulations. A small token of recognition. I now move to the Department of European Economic Studies. So to the economics department, and the laureate of the department is Giovanni Vatfe. Gratuliere sehr. Excellent. Congratulations. Well done. Excellent. I now move to the Department of European Legal Studies, and the laureate of the department is Carlo Biss. Congratulations. And then, last but certainly not least, the laureate of the Department of International Relations and Diplomatic Studies, Bertram Lang. Gratuliere sehr. Sind Sie überrascht? That's good. Excellent. So we will now announce one by one, and with the presence, in most cases, of the actual sponsors of the special prizes, the prize winners of a series of very distinguished prizes for individual achievement in different fields. And it is my special pleasure and indeed honor to pass on the floor to President Michel Konings of Eurojust. Eurojust has created, specifically in this year of the Falcone-Borsellino promotion, a prize for the best thesis on judicial cooperation in criminal matters. And Mrs. President herself has agreed to deliver the prize. Thanks very much.
Rector, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, I was asked to say some words before naming the person who has won the award, and I'm willing to do so. I'm very grateful. This is a historic moment that we were offered the opportunity to give a prize, a Eurojust prize. Because Europe is definitely on the move. Europe is more than 500 million citizens. Europe and the European Union is without borders. But Europe has already and has been heavily impacted by the financial crisis. We heard about climate change. 2008 we were affected by the financial crisis. 2011 impacted by the Arab Spring. 2014 by changes, geopolitical changes, and they all have an impact on the European Union. Together with Europe, which is on the move, criminals are on the move. And that is at the heart of the organization I'm leading since a few years now. Eurojust is fighting crime. And I remember that in October, I was invited by the rector to address a big group. I was lucky, I think. I had quantity and quality, good questions and a good audience. I was able to address how Eurojust was fighting crime. Since October, 9 months ago, Europe again has been largely impacted by a lot of crime. Think about January 2015, Charlie Hebdo. Think about the foiled attacks in Verviers, Belgium, 2015. Think about those who were killed in Denmark. Think about the 20 victims made in the Bordeaux attack on the 18th of March in Tunisia, and I could go on. Foreign terrorist fighters are at the heart of our agenda in Eurojust. We fight them with a lot of conviction. Cybercrime. I do not know about any criminal phenomenon which is evolving so fast. Young children are abused sexually on the internet. Critical infrastructures can be attacked. Thefts and frauds are taking place in a virtual world. We do not have the legal basis. We do not have enough forces to fight those crimes. And last but not least, illegal immigration. December 2014, the numbers of people being smuggled were multiplied by 3. A fortnight ago, I heard a prosecutor from Sicily saying that the number of people being smuggled can be multiplied by 5. The climate change is one of the reasons why people are moving across the borders, but also crime, organized crime, or making big money out of illegal smuggling. This is what we do. In this context, we have to partner up. We have to build bridges. And one of the bridges Eurojust has made is with the College of Europe since many years. And in that context, we're very happy that we can give a prize to a student who has devoted extra time in her thesis to mutual trust, mutual recognition. Because Europe has to build on trust with different partners, with universities, with all involved in the fight against crime. And the prize this year from Eurojust goes to Marie Lausanne, who has devoted And the prize consists of a traineeship at Eurojust, 6 months, working at the Office of the President, together with me, fighting crime, building up trust. I was struck by a quote of Marie Lausanne referring to Professor Leenaerts. It takes an eternity to build trust, a few seconds to destroy, and forever to restore. Let's build together on trust, and I wish you all a very successful and bright future. Thank you.
Well, we are very fortunate that Europol, the European Police Agency in The Hague, has also decided to create a special prize for a college student working on EU internal security. And it's now my pleasure to ask Mr. Michael Heuser from Europol to announce the winner of this prize. Thanks very much for having created this opportunity.
Yeah, welcome, dear Rector Molnar, dear students of the Falcone-Borsellino promotion, dear distinguished guests. It's a pleasure for me to be here. It's the first time that Europol is represented at this occasion of the graduation ceremony. I was tasked to have a little awareness speech on Europol. Given the mentioned low participation at the occasion of the speech of our director, I have prepared a 30 minutes presentation. I hope you are all interested. Europol, the European Police Office, the European Law Enforcement Agency. In the end, I will take the same words. We are fighting crime. Together with Eurojust, our sister organization, brother organization, however you want to put this. We help member states in fighting crime. We help them fighting serious, organized crime and terrorism. And this nowadays is even more important than in the past. So you can see that Eurojust and Europol are agencies where the idea of European integration is actually implemented in a very practical way, in a very specific policy area of EU security, internal security. In this we have something in common with the College of Europe, which also is contributing to European integration by postgraduate education. Over lunch, I learned today we have actually much more in common. We are all multilingual, we are multinational, and we are multicultural. And this makes it so thrilling by working together, bringing Europe together, working on this integration. Europol has also an interest in promoting the education of young graduates. And whilst the College of Europe wants to offer the opportunity to the best of its students to acquire a first-hand practical experience in the field of EU internal security. So we have therefore only recently concluded an agreement and have established the annual thesis award, the Europol Award for the best annual thesis on EU internal security. So this is granted for the first time this year. We have selected from the 3 best theses, and we have taken into account, next to the academic criteria as assessed by the college, the profile of the student, but of course also the relevance of the thesis for the work of Europol. The winner will be awarded with a 3 to 6 months internship at Europol and will actually have the pleasure to work with me in The Hague in the Europol Strategic and External Affairs Unit. So now I'm happy to announce as the winner of this year's Europol Thesis Award, the author of the thesis, The MidCat Project, a Spanish answer for the European energy security, Mr. Joaquín Ferro Rodriguez. Felicitaciones.
Well, the third prize, which will now be announced, is by the European External Action Service, the award for the best thesis on EU external relations. And it's my pleasure and honor to ask Ms. Monica Giovanni to actually announce prize winner. Thanks very much for coming.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dear students, Professor, staff of the college, family, parents, friends, dear colleagues. It's my great honor to announce the winner of the European External Action Service Award on the best thesis on European Union external relations. It's the second time we're giving this award, and so far we had great experience, and we hope that the next person joining us will have the same good experience. It's very special for me as well, personally, to give this award to the winner, as I'm college alumni myself. And now being here in front of you, looking at you, brings me back my memories from the college. And I'm sure that all of you is living this place with their own experience, their own memories, and friendships will last forever, and I know it by experience. I know that it can be also really tough out there, joining or rejoining the job market, but as simple as it is, stay motivated, work as hard as you were working to now, and just believe in yourself, because you can make it. I hope that this award will bring an added value to somebody's professional life as well, and I have an honor to give our award, which comprises a 5-month internship at the ES headquarters in Brussels, in the division of a choice, in the place, the division where the person will be working is a choice of the person based on preferences and personal interest. So I will just... Enrico Ganter.
It's now my pleasure to ask Mrs. Olympia Orlandoni to come forward to present the Sergio Lopez Verona Memorial Prize for the best thesis on EU relations with the Middle East.
Thank you. Dear Falcone-Borsellino promotion, dear rector, professor and assistants and staff of the college, congratulations to the student for finishing this year at the college. As Marcus Aurelius promotion, we wish you the best of luck in your future life and careers.
Please pardon our emotion today while we present the Sergio Lopez Verona Memorial Prize, which will be awarded to the best thesis on the EU's relations with the Middle East. This is the second consecutive year we award this prize, and we're very proud to be here on behalf of our promotion today. This prize was created in the memory of our dear friend and fellow Marcus Aurelian Sergio. He was passionate about the Middle East, a friend to everyone in the college, one of those people you meet once and remember forever. And someone who taught us that this very moment you're living right now can be the start of making something really meaningful for yourself and for others, both professionally and academically, or personally, sorry. After he graduated 6 years ago now, Sergio went on to a brilliant career, first at the Spanish presidency and then at the EU Just Lex mission in Baghdad in Iraq.
We want this prize to be like Sergio, and we want this prize to be an ode to life. So go out, live life to the fullest, stay human, value friendship, and be happy, and never waste a minute of it.
So now we will just award the prize to the thesis entitled EU Trade with Israeli Settlements Located in the Occupied Palestinian Territories, a Critical Assessment, under the supervision of Professor Bourgeois. And the winner is, sorry for my pronunciation, Ms. Mounia Elouar.
The next prize, which I can announce, but not the winner, of course, on my side, that's the Rafael Sanz Rodriguez Memorial Prize for the best thesis in the law department, presented by Mrs. Rao Silvestro. Please.
So the prize for the best law thesis was established 12 years ago by members of Tocqueville Promotion and myself in the memory of my husband, Raphael Sanz. Upon graduation from college, Raphael quickly established in the field of competition law with the firm Garrigues, first in Madrid and then in Brussels. However, this prize recognizes not only the excellence of Raphael in the field as a lawyer, but most important is generosity and loyalty with friends, family, and clients. And it is for this combination of attributes that I'm very happy and we want to remember and cherish Raphael. And it's with great pleasure that for the 12th year I award the prize, Raphael Memorial Prize, to the best thesis to Carlo Bitz.
The next prize will be the IRD German Language Prize, presented by Mrs. Angela Schenk. Thanks very much.
So, dear Rector Mona, dear Directors of Studies, and dear students and guests, I'm delighted to be here today at the closing ceremony of the academic year 2013 and 15 in Bruges here. My name is Angelika Schenk, and I have the honor to present the German Language Prize certificate of this year. For me, as a representative from the Goethe Institute in Brussels, it's a great pleasure to see that German language and culture is taught at such a high level and that there are so many enthusiastic students who have chosen it as a foreign language here at the College of Europe. In recognition of your great results, the Goethe Institute Brussels awards the German Language Prize, including an intensive German course of 2 weeks in Berlin, goes to Nadia Arotionova.
Thanks very much. I was just thinking it's another intensive course. So basically the studying continues, yes. Thanks very much. We will now move to the Börsen-Marsteller Prize for the best thesis on the role of non-governmental actors in EU policy making, presented by Ms. Rebecca Jarvis. Thanks very much for it.
Dear Rector, dear Professor, and dear students, first of all, congratulations to you all. I very well remember how it feels, because 8 years ago I was in your seat. I'm here representing Börsen-Marsteller, one of the largest communication and public affairs firms in Brussels and worldwide. We work with a very wide range of clients, from the pharmaceutical sector to energy, environment, and even with member states. So I am here to present the best thesis on the role of non-governmental actors in EU policymaking. And the award goes to Elena Brolis.
And now you have the ENP, European Neighbourhood Policy Award, for the best thesis on the European Neighbourhood Policy, which will be presented by my colleague, Professor Still.
Well, a lot of students have written their thesis on the European Neighbourhood Policy, so we got many interesting applications, and I guess all of them would actually deserve a prize, but there can only be one winner. It's a prize which was created last year by the college itself for Bruges students. It's a cash prize. And to go straight to the winner, the topic was Between a Rock and a Hard Place, the EU's Limited Influence in Armenia and Azerbaijan by Annika Tartes.
Now move to the Eurit Prize for the best thesis on internet governance, presented by Mrs. Leonora Staines.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, it's an honor to be here. I'm going to get straight to the point. Eurit would like to present the award for the best thesis on internet governance to a student who we believe has made a valuable contribution to the field of study and who will be participating at the IGF later this year. Congratulations, and I'm hoping I'm saying your name right, Mathieu Mononguet.
Now we pass to the Google Prize for the best thesis on EU competition rules and policy relating to information technology, presented by Mrs. Julia Holz. Wow, impressive.
Hello everybody, dear Director, dear Professor, dear students. First of all, congratulations for the conclusion of your successful year. I'm representing Google. I've joined Google 8 years ago, and the company has changed a lot. What hasn't changed is that our products touch the whole world and consumers with very many different cultures. So what Google needs is people like you who can immerse themselves in different cultures, who understand each other, who want to make the world a better place. So this thesis, the thesis I've selected, I've really liked it for one particular reason, because it really exposes critical thinking. It basically says the Court of Justice is wrong, which I think is a very refreshing attitude. And I'm happy to give the thesis to César Galán.
Take a minute sometimes.
Thank you. Have a very nice day. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
I think we need to
Photo. Photo. One moment for the.
I know that you enjoy my
We now move to the InBev by Latour Award for the best thesis on EU-China relations, presented by my colleague Professor Jing Man. Thanks.
Good afternoon. This is the 7th year that the InBev by Latour Fund offers the Best Thesis Award for the students here. And I have to say that, like the last year, I received quite a lot of very good theses, and it's very, very difficult for us to select the best one because many of them got very high score, I have to say. And after a discussion with some of the other professors, that finally we decide to give the award to an IRD student who wrote on the topic of the role of the European Parliament, particularly the role of the European Parliament in the negotiation of bilateral investment agreement between the EU and China. And also this is the first time that the award goes to a Chinese student. And his name is Shaohua Yan.
Congratulations. Thank you. I'm very proud. Now we have as the next prize the Johnson & Johnson Prize for the best thesis on a consumer-related topic, presented by Mr. Gustavo Marañez.
Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I was here 18 years ago. It was a wonderful year. I say it every year, and I have to say it again. I didn't marry anyone from the college, so there's some hope for those of you that didn't find the couple here, but I know there's a lot of people in Place de Luxembourg, in Brussels, waiting for you, so don't worry. So, today I'm here representing Johnson & Johnson. So Johnson & Johnson started a collaboration with the College of Europe this year. We created the European Health Parliament. 16 students came to Brussels to several sessions to try to innovate and bring new ideas for the future of the European healthcare systems. It was very impressive work, and they presented their recommendations to the European Parliament earlier this week. Thank you to all of you who participated. And actually, the prize this year goes to someone that participated in that program, the European Health Parliament. And the winner of the Johnson & Johnson Prize 2015 is Ines Romer.
Next prize is the ECDPM Award for the best thesis on new directions for EU relations with Africa. And it will be presented by my colleague, Professor James Mackey. Thanks very much for coming.
Good afternoon, and congratulations to all of you. I see some of my own students among the faces. Very pleased to see you moving past this next hurdle. This prize was established by ECDPM a year ago only, so we've had one successful applicant who has spent 4 months with us at ECDPM. That's the prize. And this year, well, ECDPM, for those of you who don't know us, is an institute in Maastricht that works on EU relations with Africa. Hence, the prize is intended to encourage new thinking, new ideas about how to improve EU relations with Africa. And this year we decided to open it up to the whole college, not just the IRD department, because we had very few applicants last year. This year we got a dozen and some very good theses. And the person or the thesis that won it dealt with a very difficult topic, quite a sensitive topic, in a very mature and very thoughtful and well-argued way. Unfortunately, the person can't actually be here today because she's a student from Natolin, and the thesis is about EU responses to the Anti-Homosexual Act in Uganda, which, as you can imagine, is not an easy topic to deal with. The student is Zara Reed. So if Zara is watching us by live streaming, congratulations.
Also, my congratulations to Natolin and to this award holder who we cannot welcome here now physically in a sense. The next award is the ESC Award for the best thesis on the role of the actors of the civil society in the European decision-making process. There could be no representative here, so it is my pleasure, my personal pleasure, to announce the prize winner, which is Grigory Yeritsan from European Interdisciplinary Studies Program, also in Natolin. So second time, all our congratulations to our colleague from Natolin. We move to the prize given by the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations Prize for the best thesis on public policies impacting on the pharmaceutical sector, presented by Mrs. Marie-Claire Picard. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's the 14th time I have the pleasure to announce a laureate for the FPI Prize. We started actually the collaboration with the college in 2000, really first on a way of how can we bring together business and academy. The pharmaceutical industry indeed has a large experience with working with scientists, but not so much with policy thinkers, with economists, as I am. And so we thought that this was a good opportunity to do this with the College of Europe. And the first person I called to propose this was Professor Matera. And I have the pleasure this year, for the first time, to give the prize to a student that had the study done with Professor Matera. So there is a double pleasure to nominate Claudia Calvi to the FPI Prize. And just take time. I may not be re-elected, but I do it anyway. I'll do it again. Do we have photographs? Thank you. This is for you, Claudia. Thank you. And we'll talk to each other. She wins 1 year job with FPI.
Good. We move now to the EPC Award for the best thesis on Europe in the world, presented by Mr. Paul Ivan. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all graduates. It's very good to be back at the college, especially on my birthday. Thank you. We received... Thank you. Received... Thank you, but it should be about you, not about me. We received several very good theses. It was extremely difficult to select the best of one. Because two of our colleagues are called Paul, me included, we decided to give it to Paul. I joke. The best prize for the best thesis in Europe in the world goes to Paul Nallen.
We move now to the EU ISS Award for the best thesis on the EU's common foreign and security policy, common security defense policy and EU external relations. This is a long title for award, which will be presented by Professor Antonio Misiroli. There you are. I was looking around. I was fearing that at the last minute you couldn't. He is very busy.
Good afternoon. I find myself in a peculiar situation here because I lie to some extent at both ends of this path. I am an instructor here and I'm the director of the EU ISS. But I don't see that as a conflict of interest. On the contrary, it is rather a combination of interests in the sense that over the years I've managed to appreciate a lot the sheer quality of the students coming from the college, for their analytical capacity, for their political acumen, and also for their organizational skills. The prize for this year goes to Michaela Anna Shimakova.
Congratulations. We'll see you soon.
The next prize will be given by Linklaters. It's a Linklaters prize for the best thesis on the economic analysis of European law, presented by Mr. Bernd Meyring.
Dear Rector, dear students, Linklaters is a global group of lawyers with a presence in Europe and in Brussels, and we do two things that are of relevance for people who have studied here in Bruges. There is a group of competition lawyers spread over many places in Europe, and there is a EU law and policy group. And in these groups, you must find today about 2 handsful of alumni of the college, representing, I think, an equal number of promotions, and some of them are people who have won the prize that I have the pleasure to award today. And the Linklaters Prize this year is awarded to a thesis that covers a subject between competition, justice, procedures, and efficiency. It covers the topic of settlements that has been developed in many places over many years for criminal proceedings, and that has been exported to the area of competition law since about 5 years. And the prize goes to Mariana Romano Gonzalo.
Next on the list is the Meyer Brown Prize for the best thesis on the impact of EU law on business, presented by Mr. Jens Peter Schmidt. Thanks for being with us today.
Dear Rector, thank you very much. Dear students,
It is indeed, as Eleonora said before, I'm since 2000-something in Brussels, and you see graduates of the college everywhere in Brussels, at law firms, at consultancies, at the Commission, of course, at the bar association sometimes. And it's an honor for me to be here and to see yet the promotion of another round of such highly qualified and skilled people. The Mayor Brown Legal Business Prize is awarded to students who basically combine legal thinking with the business impact legal developments have. And Mayor Brown has a long tradition to award this prize. We not only do this, but we also regularly visit the Career Day, where we have identified, interviewed, and hired a number of graduates before. And this year, the Mayor Brown Legal Business Prize deals with the intersection of tax planning and state aid. And the name of the winner is Alexander Dorich.
So we now move to the Microsoft Award for the best thesis on information and communication technologies, presented by Mr. Jean-Yves Acht. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it's time to be a little bit innovative. C'est français ici aussi. Ok, alors on va continuer celui-ci en français. C'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être ici aujourd'hui et de vous remettre un prix à la fin de cette année. C'est un prix qui, la thèse qu'on a choisie est une thèse qui pour moi reflète quelque chose en quoi on croit beaucoup chez Microsoft, qui est la combinaison de plusieurs spécialités. Le droit, sciences politiques, si on avait pu, on aurait rajouté la communication, sciences économiques. On n'a pas encore trouvé une thèse qui fasse le tout, mais celle-ci en tout cas porte sur un sujet qui est très actuel et rejoint à la fois, pour moi, le droit et la science politique. La thèse que nous avons décidé de primer, et c'est la première fois que nous donnons le prix chez Microsoft, c'est la thèse de Mathieu Moulonguet sur la protection des données privées. Bravo à Mathieu. Bravo.
Now move to the Thusiat Award for the best thesis on EU enlargement policies, presented by Mrs. Dilek Aydin. Welcome.
Dear Rector, dear directors of the studies, dear students and distinguished guests. As Turkish Industry and Business Association, we wish the award will act as a facilitator for the intellectual debate that will bring a European Union into reality that is wider and stronger, that is ready to overcome, to face the challenges of the 21st century, from democracy to the rule of law to better regulation, from economy to climate change to energy and security. So, on behalf of Thusiat, it is my pleasure to present Thusiat Award for the best thesis on EU enlargement policies to Mr. Tim Gemmers.
now my pleasure to give the floor to my colleague, Professor Luc van Langenhoven, Director of UNO-Quiz, for the UNO-Quiz Prize for the best thesis on the EU and other world regions. Please.
Thank you very much, dear Rector, dear students, dear colleagues. It is indeed my pleasure for the second time to award the UNU Quiz Prize on the relations between the EU and other world regions. And this prize is actually a 6-month paid internship at UNU Quiz in Bruges. So depending on your perspective, you can see this as a punishment or as an award. The prize this year goes to Joëli Steger.
Now there follow several prizes, which I will announce myself because representatives couldn't come. The Union for the Mediterranean Award for the best thesis on Euro-Mediterranean relations goes to Mrs. Lea Eleonora Venanen from Valladolid Park. Congratulations. There is an envelope which confirms this.
Okay, thank you.
And I will now call up in succession, and they may please join me, the five winners of the prize of the Dipartimento Italiano Politica Europea della Presidenza del Consiglio dei Ministri. So for those who need translation, so this is a award of the Presidency of the Council of the Italian government for the 5 best Italian students of the year. The winners are Tommaso Emiliani, Lorenzo Donatelli, Elisa Czanchik, Andrea Chiarello, and Elena Brolis. Elena Brolis. Many congratulations. Congratulations. You take a photo. Ah, yeah, there you are.
Thanks.
And there is an envelope which confirms.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. And the 5th one I keep in myself. Yes. Cut. Perfect.
Thanks very much.
Oh, sorry. Good. And the last prize I have the honor to announce is a Global Competition Law Center Prize for the best thesis on competition law and policy. And here, unfortunately, I have to end on an anticlimax because the deliberations on the award are still continuing, but it will be announced in September. So the prize will not be lost. So one of you will still get the good news, but then in September. Sometimes there are reasons why the deliberations take longer because there are so many good candidates. Let's put it in this perspective. It is now my pleasure, and each year this is really a highlight of the closing ceremony, the speech by the student representatives. So if I might call up Marie Boucher and Carlo Bis to actually address us.
Good afternoon, Marie. You know, I just picked up an LLM at Bruges, but don't worry, doctors say it's already no longer transmissible.
Good afternoon, Paolo. Do you work in Frankfurt? Because you just raised my interest.
Enough with the EU pickup lines, even if we could go on for hours. So, apparently now we are supposed to give a speech.
Well, yes, but just before, let me deliver you the Understatement Award.
And the nominees are...
Well, okay. Well, let's start by thanking the rector for being as much as possible responsive and understanding to the need of us, the students. We thank, of course, Baron Jacob von Uexküll for his inspiring speech and for his presence during this important day.
A special thank you goes to the whole administration of the college, from the Students' Affairs Office to the Careers Office, passing through the libraries, the language service, the cleaning ladies, and the ICT team.
And don't forget our beloved canteen. Then we'd like to thank each department, professor and assistants, since in the end we came here to study. And thanks to them, we've learned a lot.
A special thought and thank you, of course, also goes to the residence ladies for having been our adoptive mothers for 9 months.
Last but not least, a thank to all the students of the Falcone-Borsellino promotion, the best symbols of the true and hopefully lasting friendships that we have built here, with a special mention to all those who steered the several associations and groups at the college.
Well, as with every experience, it is now high time to look back at what happened during these last 10 months. I remember when I first arrived here, I had the awareness of something called weekend. Now I still have it, but just because the breakfast is different in the morning and the repas froid is warmly welcoming you in the evening at the canteen.
Yes, I remember. I think I slept more than 7 hours per night before coming to the college, which is a faraway mirage during the exams. Also, I found happiness in doing small things as washing dishes, doing my grocery shopping, cooking. Well, actually, now I find happiness in not doing them anymore.
Moreover, I used to have friends outside of the college. And really, I have to thank my friends Facebook Messenger, Skype and WhatsApp for having at least some of them left.
When I had dinner before starting the college, I was not talking about political parties' agendas in all EU countries, or the legal basis for international agreements, European Stability Mechanism, or the CFSP in EU-China relations during dinner.
I used to think that unity in diversity was just a concept. And here I realized that all those different people can actually live together, notwithstanding their cultural background, even if no court imposed the mutual recognition principle upon us.
Low jokes. On the last point, I remember I stressed out before doing a presentation, and now after doing like 25 of them in the past 4 months, it's become sort of a routine, and I see PowerPoint slides everywhere.
But what actually happened here in Bruges during these 10 months?
Well, when you arrive here, you feel a little bit like in Harry Potter, with the college choosing your residence, like the Talking Hat choosing your house. But, you know, the college taught me to be open-minded, so I still tolerate some Slytherins and Hufflepuff in my group of friends.
Well, I must confess I felt more like in Game of Thrones, the censored version, of course, because of the coat of arms and the Christmas tree war that left many people on the field. Also, there were many moments in which I felt that Jon Snow actually knew much more than I did. But luckily, at the college, you don't either win or die, but you live and you learn.
Now I have an emploi du temps ministre that I receive both on Wednesday and Friday, and it is updating itself on a rolling basis. Hence, I have now become a multitasking queen.
Consequently, sometimes you need to make hard choices, whether to participate in a debate outside from the box go to the choir rehearsals, or play basketball with my international team.
At the college this year, we all acquired new identities. Now we are Eus de Cools.
Where did you say? And most importantly, where is the iron?
Nice. So I said we are Eus de Cools, but we are also Oud de Zac, where breakfast is finished. We are La Famiglia of Garen Marx, the cozy labyrinths of OG. We are Biscaya Love and the Gooden Knights. We are the holy band of Australia, the heaven of Saint-Joris, and the people from Rosendal who believe that l'enfer, c'est les autres.
And most of all, we all are Il Bunker. I learned in Bruges that after a second drink, every day could turn into a crazy Friday night. I learned to disguise and to put myself in the shoes of so many different people, and let's just finish with this here, because of all the great theme parties we had at the student bar.
Yeah, even if we stayed more or less in this fairy tale small town from September till now, I was able to travel all around Europe and even further thanks to the national weeks, in which great food was eaten, interesting conferences were held, but also awesome parties were thrown.
In Bruges, I learned to do some extreme bike riding, fighting against Flemish monsoons, wind, fog, polar cold, heavy hail, tons of tourists, horses, bouncing on the cables like with a BMX, but sometimes also enjoying some moments of sunshine. Still, we avoided snow and ice. Every cloud has a silver lining.
Je pense que nous sortons tous enrichis de l'environnement culturel dans lequel nous avons baigné ici, et nous veillerons à garder la même spontanéité dans nos expériences professionnelles futures, à garantir une égalité entre hommes et femmes sans avoir besoin de quotas, comme pour notre équipe de représentants.
Nous avons découvert ou renforcé ici notre idée que l'amour et l'amitié dépassent toutes sortes de catégories, que ce soit en termes de nationalité, d'orientation sexuelle, de genre ou de religion. Nous garderons d'ici un esprit de tolérance fondé sur une ouverture sincère et curieuse envers autrui.
À partir d'aujourd'hui, un certain nombre d'entre nous va passer directement de la bulle brugeoise à la bulle bruxelloise. D'autres vont retourner dans leur contrée lointaine. Dans tous les cas, nous mettrons en œuvre tout ce que nous avons appris ici pour construire une Europe ambitieuse et à la hauteur de nos attentes.
Peu importe où nous serons, nous essaierons de garder les pieds sur terre et de rester accrochés à la réalité, en ne nous renfermant pas dans une tour d'ivoire eurocrate. Ce que nous avons déjà essayé de faire cette année, grâce à des initiatives telles que les activités de bénévolat, Lost Family Project, les expositions d'art de l'Académie de Gand et de photos d'Amnesty International à Fersversdijk et l'événement TEDx Why Not au Provincialof.
Je suis sincère en disant aujourd'hui que j'ai trouvé ici une famille, comme nous tous, et que j'ai pu saisir le sens de la devise « On est chez nous ». Certains d'entre nous vont même devenir, on l'espère, des familles au sens propre.
En résumé, ces 10 mois à Bruges nous ont appris la richesse, la fierté et la beauté dans la diversité qu'être européen signifie.
Mais pour conclure, nous tenions à avoir une pensée pour nos deux patrons de promotion, Falcone et Borsellino, qui se sont sacrifiés pour améliorer la société dans laquelle ils vivaient, après s'être battus avec deux armes bien particulières, la soif de connaissance et l'optimisme.
Ce n'est pour nous pas un hasard si notre promotion porte le nom de deux grands amis, Giovanni et Paolo. L'amitié et la solidarité sont les deux boussoles qui nous guideront dans nos parcours futurs.
Their ideas will walk on our legs and speak through our words and deeds.
Vielen Dank für die sehr gute Zusammenarbeit. Ja. Ja. Good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Merci. Thank you. Should have been ladies first, but. thanks very much also for the help which you have provided us throughout the year as representatives. Very much appreciated. You have been very constructive, very helpful representatives, defending the students' interests, but also understanding sometimes the constraints of the college. This is, I think, also a very good, so to say, preparation for your future responsibilities in different professional sectors. Thanks. Joint photo? Is there a photo? Joint photo with the representatives? If you want. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Number 5. Good. Thank you so much, guys. Well, dear students, dear parents, and dear friends and colleagues, I would like to add a personal word of thanks really to the representatives of the Falcone-Borsellino promotion for the college. It's crucial to have a constant contact with the students, also to be informed about anything which might not go as well as we wish, and to get the advice from the student body what we can improve. And the representatives this year have really done a magnificent job. We all at the college would not be the same without your elected representatives helping us on a constant basis to do our job better. Maintenant, on touche à la fin de cette cérémonie et c'est maintenant mon devoir, mon privilège dans un certain sens de formellement clôturer cette année académique 2014-15, l'année de la promotion Falcone-Borsellino. Quand vient le moment de clôturer l'année académique, c'est toujours avec un certain élément de tristesse également, parce que c'est la dernière fois que vous tous vous trouvez ensemble ici dans l'ensemble du collège, pour ainsi dire. Mais on sait que vous allez revenir et on espère de vous revoir très tôt ici au collège. On restera dans la même communauté pour toujours. Je déclare l'année académique fermée. The final word is to our choir. it.